We are so happy you're here. My name is Kathleen Ludwig. I am a second grade teacher at Comanche Elementary. I'm looping with my babies from last year, so I have to kind of change my words. I'm no longer first grade, but did some work with EngageNY and really found a lot of success with it in the short amount of time that we did it. So, and this is the math guru. She is the lady.
I am not the math guru, but it's been rumored. Well, you don't believe rumors. I am Sarah Collins. I am a first grade teacher at Briarwood, and I started working with EngageNY last year. So Kathleen and I are here to kind of walk you through a lesson and to let you know some of the things that we've learned as we go through the lesson, that kind of thing. I watched a demo lesson by a fourth grade teacher, and it was after I'd been teaching EngageNY a while, but it was really helpful just to watch and have her explain the different pieces of the lesson. So that's our goal today. If you have questions, please stop us and interrupt. We'll keep trying to get back on track if we get off a track. But as you have questions, stop and interrupt. We have a time for questions at the end, but you may not remember them, so if you want to interrupt prior. At the end, we're also going to do some how we're differentiating and tips and tricks that we learned along the way that hopefully will help you guys out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is a quick video I found over the summer. And I want to play it first, and then I'm going to tell you a little story after. And I just want to know how many of us can relate to this type of feeling. So we're going to hope that this works. There might be a little fun ad for us to see before. Oh, looks like we're going to be good to go.
I think it's already starting. Okay, here's your homework. First let me tell you the directions. What's 4 take away 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take away. What's 6 take away 1? 1. No, you take away, so you take away 1 out of 6. How much does it equal? What's 10 minus 1? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nope. Take away 1. How much is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And one more. And add 1 more. How many does it equal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1. It makes 9. See how you take away? You take away 1. And it equals 1. Do you get it now? Yes.
Yeah, he gets it. He totally gets it. So funny. So, oh gosh. I'm not sure how to get out of here. Here we go. Whoop. Okay, so has anyone ever felt like this, perhaps, in a time in their teaching, where you just, I think for me at least, some of the kindergarten, first grade, primary students don't always come with that foundation, right? And that number sense. And so sometimes I felt as if I was just trying really hard to maybe give them the answer right. And you get it, and then you move on. And what I love about EngageNY is that it lends itself to so many engaging opportunities, not only for the students to talk with each other, but for the students to explain their thinking to you and kind of work through things like that out loud. And so I thought that was something very relevant for me, at least, and something that we hope EngageNY will find you not feeling like, if you will. So,
Kathleen and I wanted just to talk a little bit about our backgrounds. I'm at Briarwood, which is on the east area of the district, and Kathleen is at Comanche. So we highlighted what they are.
Comanche, Briarwood.
We have 600 kids enrolled this year. You have
a little over 500.
A little over 500. That 600 includes 41 preschoolers, so we're at 560 without them. So we have both really large schools, very different populations. If you look at Briarwood's map, you can see we have quite an area that we are pulling from. So we have primarily, not all, but primarily single family homes. But Comanche.
Yes, we have a very big variety. We have kids a lot of times who will leave us in October and come back in April without having much schooling. It's a Title I school, lower SES, kids with so much potential, so much cultural value to bring to classrooms, and I absolutely love being there. However, a lot of times they don't come in with prior schooling, sometimes even before kindergarten, or even maybe they have moved in from Honduras and they're just kind of getting used to life, right? So although geographically we're not too far, our SES statuses are far different, both equally important and as special, but very different populations. But what Sarah and I found to be really exciting was that although our populations are so different, we were seeing the same types of improvements in our kids, and we were seeing the same types of engagement in our students. And something that I really loved was some of my lowest readers with the lowest language abilities were blooming with EngageNY, and they were able to talk about their numbers, and their number sense just kind of took off. So for me, that was something really special to see, and something that I really am going to value and I think really focus on as well to start the year.
And it was interesting because Kathleen and I didn't meet until this summer when we started planning for this presentation, and we just started talking about our own experiences. It was like, oh, well, that's what I saw with my kids too. And so even though we're coming from very different parts of the district with very different school populations and student populations, we're seeing the same kind of things. And we are excited about it for all of our kids.
Very much so.
And that's what's so good. Oops, this one. EngageNY has a standard lesson format, and this is it. They're going to follow essentially this. It starts often with an application problem, and we'll do that with you as well. It's just a little problem that you have the kids. It's always a word problem, and you have the kids do it with a whiteboard marker whiteboard. I used to do it on our desks and let them just write on their desks as we did it, and it just sets the tone for the lesson. The next piece is fluency, and that's where you're building in your fact families, your sprints. You're getting them faster and faster at doing addition or subtraction problems. In first grade, the fluency part, those sprints, and you will see one today, don't start repeating the same type of sprint until about module 4 or 5. Until then, you're doing one sprint one day, and then the next day it may be a different kind of sprint. So somebody said, well, I'm going to chart them and show how their growth is. Well, you can't really, because you're comparing oranges to apples as opposed to the same sprint each day. They will switch. Sometimes they'll start with fluency, and sometimes they'll start with application problems. I got to the point, and this was when we moved buildings mid-year, it worked better for me to always start with fluency and then do application and go into concept development. So there is some freedom about when you do things and how you do it. This is just the suggested format. After those two, there's concept development, and this is the meat of your lesson. It's done whole group. I did it on the carpet most of the time. In front of me, kids working in partners, kids working alone, depending on what it was we were working on. Then there is the problem set, and this one is the hard one to wrap your mind around because we see a worksheet and we think we have to do every problem. You don't. In the manuals, it talks about you have 10 minutes to do this problem set, and you'll look at some, there's no way the kids can do it in 10 minutes. They're not expected to. So we'll talk about this some more, but planning with the end in mind and looking at the debrief questions, because they'll talk about in there which problem set questions to focus on. And so you can say, all right, I want you guys to do problems 2, 5, and 7, or 2, 3, and 4, whichever ones. If you get done with those, go ahead and work on some of the other ones, but don't worry about it if you don't. The debrief, which is a chance to go over the problem set. This is a really key thing, and I will be very honest, my first year, I rarely got to it. So it's my goal this year to really try to get that debrief in there, to really focus on that, because it gives you a chance for the kids to explain their learning, and you can see what understandings they have and don't have. And then finally, there's an exit ticket, which is a real quick assessment of what the kids know and don't know from that lesson.
Yes.
Sarah, can you explain how that debrief and exit ticket are different?
Sure. The debrief is whole group and it's conversation. You're talking to the kids, and we'll do it today, and we'll say, well, what can you tell me about this? You know, compare the butterflies. Do you see any similarities between the butterflies and the soccer balls? Whereas the exit ticket is 1 or 2 problems that they solve on their own. And we'll show you those today as well.
So as you get started in your manuals, this is kind of the basic setup of what every lesson is going to look like. And I know a lot of us saw this back on May 5th. I don't know about you, but my brain was kind of all over the place, you know. Cinco de Mayo, it's a very exciting time. It was a Friday, okay? So I was not quite Engage New York focused, we're gonna be honest. I also was working in a 5th grade training session, and it was hard for me to kind of apply what I had done to these 5th grade concepts. So this is what it's gonna look like. They give you the suggested lesson structure. And as Sarah was talking about, as you get started, you are really gonna find your groove. You're gonna find what works for you. You're gonna find what works for your kids. However, it is a-okay to sit crisscross applesauce with your manual in your lap, okay? And I'm gonna set a timer, and here we go. I would write down some of our fluency practice or our warm-up games on the board, and then I'd cross them out for myself so that I could really try to do my very best. I, along with Sarah, struggled to find time to get that debrief in, just because I wanted that concept development. I wanted to get all of the good, meaty lesson done, right? And then I use my exit ticket in a little bit different way that I'm gonna talk to you guys about after we are finished with our lesson. So total time is 60 minutes. For me last year, it was a little challenging because I had 25 lunch, special, recess, and then 35. So it was really kind of hard to reel them back in. So if you can structure, I don't know what everyone's master schedules look like, but having a good solid 60 minutes I think is really valuable, and it's gonna fly. It really is just gonna fly by. You're gonna have your standards, you're gonna have kind of your concepts to go by. Each standard can be found on the focus grade level standard section. Okay, so they're really gonna map out, here's what you're teaching, here's what it covers, here exactly precisely how many minutes you should spend on it. And so it's okay if you feel a little overwhelmed. Okay, I'm sweating talking about it actually, thinking about getting through all of it. And what I felt like was, I felt kind of back in student teaching where I'm reading, I'm practicing, and then I'm gonna go work on it. This didn't go so great, let's try this. So it's really just gonna be about you getting used to your routine, getting used to your kids and how they're doing, and just kind of being fluid and patient with yourself as well.
Yeah.
So using as much help as you can, I would highly suggest.
All right.
Okay, here's the deal. I'm gonna get my teacher brain back on, okay? So from now on, we're gonna do our best to speak to you as first graders. So this is a good chance for me to kind of get my summer brain dusted off a little bit. So if I flop, I apologize. And of course, if there are any times that we need to step out and be adult to adult, please raise your hand and ask questions. But we're gonna try to jump in.
And I'm gonna set a timer.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I just put up here, not for the kids, the timers aren't for them other than on a sprint, they're for me. And I would set timers for myself because I would lose track of time and I would want to spend 30 or 40 minutes on fluency because I liked the drills so much and felt like the kids were gaining so much out of them. So
awesome.
Just like
yes.
I'm doing in class, I'm gonna set a timer for Kathleen.
Perfect. Awesome, very good. Okay, first grade. We get to practice our number sense again. We are back on math, we're practicing our numbers. Remember, with our math hands, we always wanna start left to right, just like we read left to right. So when we count, and Miss Ludwig is really gonna try because I have to do it opposite than you, right? And I've been on vacation eating bonbons for 8 weeks, so here we go. We're gonna practice together. Can you show me 1? Good job, first grade, put it down. Show me 2. Look at that, so nice, first grade. And 3? Good, and put it away. And I'm gonna do it with you now. Let's do 4. Awesome, put it back. 5, boom, let's speed it up now. 6, right, left to right, 6, put it back. 7. You guys are so smart. Look at this. You have got great counting skills. Put them away. 8. Awesome. Put them away. 9. It's tricky for Miss Ludwig to do 9. Put it away. And 10. Look at that. Okay, kiss your brain. You guys are so good at counting. Okay, I'm going to try now. I'm going to try to trick you. We're going to go fast, okay? And I'm going to do a different. I'm going to show you a number. I'm going to put it away. I'm going to snap. You're going to tell me what number I showed you, okay? And again, I'm going to try really hard to start over here, even though we're used to doing this. Okay, here we go. Ready? Wait.
1.
Oh, well done.
3.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
6.
Yes.
7.
Good. My snaps are off, right? Okay, here we go.
10.
Good. Oh, wait for that snap, right? You gotta wait. Good job. Hold it. Try it again. Good. How am I doing, Mrs. Collins? How are we doing on time? We've got about 1 minute. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to practice with your partner, okay? Show your partner a number, snap, and then they can show you a number and snap. Go for it.
I'm hearing it for you.
All right.
Well done. Well done. First grade. Can everyone show me 10? Show me your big 10. Well done. That's kind of tricky, first grade, right? To go left to right and then that snap. But that's okay. We're getting better every day. Okay, so really good job working together. Okay.
All right. First grade,
Can you pass this out?
I'm gonna pass these up. Will you put them B-side up for me?
B-side?
Yep.
You got
when
it.
I pass them out, I don't want you to turn them over. I want you to put your name on the top. There are 2 sides. I'm gonna make sure you see the B at the top of your paper.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. These are yours, and you can write on them. This is fluency. That was fluency. That was still fluency. There's usually 2 to 3 fluency problems. She got them.
I love how quietly you're sitting. So nice job. You're so welcome.
When you have your name on your paper, hold your pencil in the air.
Be clear, when you're doing it partners, you do it backwards for them so it looks left to right
Correct.
for them. Right?
Yes. Tricky. I know.
When your name is on your paper, put your pencil up in the air. All right, we're gonna have 1 minute, and your goal is to count the number of dots and to write that number either next to it or in the square. You do as many as you can in a minute. It doesn't matter how many your neighbor gets done, it matters how many you get done. All right, so when I say go, I'm gonna have you flip to the A side, and we're gonna start there. And I did this with my first graders, so.
Yeah.
Skip around.
You may do it however you want. On your marks, get set, flip, go. No, just stay on side A, don't do side B yet.
Good job, first grade. You guys are so good at those numbers.
When, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what I did. I forgot that you guys would get finished in a minute because first graders don't.
Did anyone get 5? Good job.
So as the year went on and my first graders got better, I would say at the bottom of your paper, or if it was just a one-sided paper, if you get done before the minute's up, turn it over and I want you to count by 2s or count by 3s as high as you can go. So they have a task. I forgot to give you guys that. The next thing is we correct these, but you correct your own paper. The way EngageNY says to do it is you shout out if you get it right. I didn't do that. I didn't like it. Well, I didn't read that part of the instruction when I started doing EngageNY. And then when I read it, I didn't like it. So I'm going to do with you guys what I did with my class because it worked really well. I'm going to tell you the correct answer. If you got it right, put a check mark beside it. If you got it wrong, write the correct answer. Oops, sorry, I hit the timer again. Put the correct answer in. And when we're done, I want you to count the number you got right, and you will put it up in that box right there. So I'm going to do it. I'll only do about 5 of these because you guys can check your own papers. So,
We believe in you.
3, 4, 3, 1, 4, 5, 4. You guys correct the rest and put your number right. All right. Take a look at the number you got right. Your goal is 1 more than you got right the last time, which for you guys, you probably can't do 1 more. If you get done in before the minute, then I want you to write as high as you can go, counting by 4s. On your marks, get set, flip your paper.
Yeah.
Because I noticed for me, I had to like
Yes.
do that right.
Yes. And a lot of mine with the addition problems would struggle because they would want to count and put dots in these tiny boxes instead of the big one. Yeah, so it was trickier. So maybe having them start on the right side would be good.
All right. We would do the same thing. We'd go through correct. They'd write the number they got correct this time. And I would just ask them, you know, just think about, were you able to do more than you were the last time? And I wouldn't have anybody answer that out loud, although, you know, first graders, they will.
Yes!
I did it! But just to try to make it a personal goal for them as opposed to competitive with other kids in the classroom.
Yes.
And that's the sprint. And yes?
What's the reasoning behind the last 5 or
Usually they do more challenging.
just to challenge?
Right.
Right.
And
Okay.
as they get into addition subtraction, they'll do super tricky one. You know, they might do more algebraic, you know, filling this in rather than, so they're more for the challenge for the kids who are going to get to them to kind of challenge and enhance that. That's what I always
Yes,
assume
that's-
to be true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
matter which side you do first?
No.
Nope. And one thing that we talked about too, and Sarah and I had similar experiences with students for different reasons. So Sarah had some kids who are just perfectionists, and it was really hard for them to not get through every single one, or if they didn't get every single one right, you know, you always have that one who's erasing and writing the right number, you know, that they got it right. And whereas I would have students who really who were very frustrated and would freeze and shut down and put their heads down. So finding as whatever ways and strategies that you can use to really make this a low stakes activity, I think is really important, especially early on, because then as you get into more challenging content, they won't feel as frozen for whatever the
Right.
reason may be.
I think it's also true depending on your parents. I had a lot of parents saying, why isn't my kid finishing them? They need to be finishing them all. And it's like, no, they need to be getting 1 more than the time they did it the last time. So educating parents on
So
it.
did you send these home?
Yeah, the kids took those home. So, you know, I mean, that's a choice with you guys whether you send them home or not. But for me, it was educating parents.
So what did you tell your kids that wanted to finish?
Sometimes I would let them do it later on. Hey, if you have a little time later in the day, why don't you go finish your sprint, or you could practice it later if you have time. Finish it during morning work tomorrow if you really want. Just trying to find opportunities for them to do that.
Right. Yeah.
What did you have any kids that would finish, like would get a perfect score each time? Do they just keep taking it?
I did not. I had ones who became
I-
pretty close towards the end, but I did not. I don't know if Sarah did.
They don't start repeating until 4th or 5th, and when the 4th or 5th module, and when they start repeating, they have different ones you can give them. So that was when I started to keep track, just so I could make sure I would give them another one that was a little bit more challenging. But at the beginning, I never had kids that were finishing them. So
Yeah.
at some point, the sprints say to do 90 seconds. I don't have a 90-second timer, so I did 2 minutes. And you just have to read the instructions. Some of them are a minute. Some of them, I think if they consider it fluency and not a sprint, then it's a 90-second one. But if I tried to keep track on a clock, knew I was going to lose my place. So I just decided I'm going to be consistent and do 2 minutes throughout. Carrie.
Would you have them, like, would you try to look over them, like take them home, or would you try to send them home right away?
I usually sent them home right away. If I noticed somebody was really struggling with one, I would pull that child aside at some point. I'd pull that one and say, I want to hold on to this for a little bit, and then pull the child aside to try to explain how they had misunderstood what they were supposed to do.
And my other question is really, I was never able to do all the parts in the 60, 70 minutes. Yep. But at the beginning of the year with first graders, are you taking a little bit longer on something like this to kind of teach the?
I think you sure could, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Recommend, like, just, it sounds like you don't, but recommend just, plowing ahead, well, we're going to come back to something similar. So, like, you know what I'm saying?
No,
just,
I'll explain it to him.
Checking, like, I could just see you're
Right.
going to have to do so much training with.
For sure,
Exactly.
absolutely. Just
Right.
like any procedure, yeah,
And
it takes
You could
time
do
and
this.
practice.
This could be your whole math lesson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And some days that may be it, just
Yeah.
depending on what happens in your
And
class. Yeah.
another modification that I remembered is I would just fold that paper in half, for a student, or I would just go and highlight a little 2 or 3 problems. Let's all practice just the first 3 together, and we'll practice checking them.
Yeah.
And then let's maybe practice the next 3, and then tomorrow I'm not even going to tell you how many. You get to do however many you want. So really kind of building it up. And then by the time they do become independent, it's just a warm-up activity, something they're really used to.
Is your goal module 1, day 1 on Monday? Okay, so you're.
My goal is survival.
We are
on
trying
Monday.
to learn those rules, We're trying to learn those rules.
Specials on the half day.
Yeah.
So it's like, well.
No. Taking your time, I think, is...
Probably midweek, that first week. I might do one part of it on Monday. I'm just going to see how my class is.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to send. Right.
Right, because I didn't know if that was like the district's expectation.
No.
That's why
Yeah.
I no. Half day on Friday, so Monday you get hit it hard.
Yeah, I know. It's overwhelming.
They right here in front of them, and you don't talk about it.
Say that.
Can you explain it to them? You can like give I might have missed that, but did you talk about this first to the kids?
I did.
Yes.
I didn't with you guys, but with the kids, I did. The first time I gave him a sprint, I explained it. We talked about how to do it, and we may have practiced the first side together, and then I let them do the second side on their own. No. 'Cause they're not used
as
to
much
it.
modification as you need, to really get their toes in the water.
Yeah.
And so teachers are running all of these things themselves.
Currently, they are.
Currently, they are. And kind of what the district line on copies is right now is go in, use it for a few weeks, see which parts of it you're going to use. I didn't use exit tickets. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't use exit tickets. I didn't use every problem set last time. So before you go and copy everything in the module, take it for a little bit and then start sending stuff off to the print shop. Yes.
I was just curious, you said you started with fluency first. Do you as well? Or do you
Because I was split down the middle, I would kind of do warm-up games and then our fluency piece, and then come back and do the concept development. So yeah, we would do very similar.
the application problems?
Sometimes in the lesson plan, sometimes that will be first, and sometimes fluency will be first.
Right.
And at the beginning, I followed it exactly, and then as I got more comfortable with it and the way it worked for my class, I just flipped and thought I'm always going to start with fluency
Yes.
and then go to the application. But that's what worked for me.
I stuck very similarly to just kind of a good procedure. They were used to it. They knew their spots. Yes. So I think for little ones especially, that's A-okay. Yeah.
So 13 minutes was 2 minutes? Yes.
Of that, but then correcting
Correcting.
it.
Yeah, they want you to say, how many of you got 5 right? Keep your hand up if you got 10 right. But we, just as professionals, for our kiddos, it wasn't a positive or, it wasn't going to benefit our students as much as it was maybe going to make them shy away.
Exactly.
A little bit, yes.
And, I'll be honest, I had some kids breaking down in tears the first time I gave these.
Yeah.
And, we just talked, am I upset about this? No. What are we trying to do? You know, and just go back and keep reinforcing. Am I worried about that you didn't get that? No, it's okay. We all make mistakes. What do we talk about? So that growth mindset with it. And by the end, one of the little girls that was breaking down in tears at the beginning, every time I said, okay, it's time for a sprint, was like, yes!
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, and if you're ready to move on, you go, jump into concept. Yeah, whatever works best for you. Or hey, let's talk about this tricky one. Why does it look like this? Let's all talk about this all together. You know, you can take pieces from it, but if you're ready to rock, I would say get going. I'd say you're good to go.
And I have a question about the counting. So that was always confusing for me.
Sure.
When you're doing it.
I very well could have.
So I like it when I would
Just be with them. Sure.
So what did you normally do?
So I'm still kind of training my brain, to be honest with you. I was down with my students. I sat with them on the carpet, so I would turn my back and they were all behind me, and so I would practice left to right with them as much as I could. And then I would try to reinforce as I saw them counting on their fingers to use the same math hands. And I jumped in mid-January, early February with this, so I'm still, it was super rusty. I think that I taught the tip of the iceberg, and I'm learning more as I go. But yeah, I think starting with them left to right. Yeah.
Usually the fluency is not just one piece. Just like we did the counting with our hands, that was one piece of the fluency. This is another piece. Sometimes there were 3 activities. I don't ever remember there being more than 3.
No.
Often I would cut one of them out. Just because for me and timing, as I tell my colleagues, I'm always behind. So I would pick 1 or 2 of the fluencies and do those, and then move on to the next
And
thing.
as they get going in their routines, they will become much more fluid. At it, we would do skip counting often, and I would kind of throw some other ones in there just to get them familiar, and they would start rolling through a lot faster as they got more comfortable as well. Yeah. Okay, first grade. You guys all know my dog, Willow. Listen, she is my polar bear dog. She's 50 pounds and she's a puppy baby. And we always talk about her in our math problems. So I had to show you a picture in case you forgot what she looked like, okay? Willow Girl, she found some toys, okay? If there is a squeaky toy, Willow will find it and she will squeak it, okay? So she found 5 squeaky toys to play with in her basket. I try to put all of her toys in a basket. Every day she takes them out, right? Every night I put them back. That's just how it is. That's okay because I love her. She had 5 in her basket. She found 2 more under the couch, okay? She's got a great sense of smell. She was under there wiggling her little tail, found 2 more, okay? So now this is the time that you get to use your whiteboards, and I want you to just think about Willow, draw a picture, and or use numbers. And it's early on in the school year, first grade, so if you just want to draw pictures, that's okay. If you remember your 10 frames from kindergarten and you want to maybe put those in there, that's okay too. It's whatever you feel good with, okay? So we're going to give you a little time here to draw some pictures, maybe write some numbers, and then we'll talk about our equation. So we're going to give you, how much time are we going to give them?
7 minutes.
7
minutes total for
total. Okay.
You want me to set a timer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. And you guys are much better than first graders. You're not erasing your boards.
Yes. They're slamming the
Drawing
marker.
Willow.
Yeah.
Oh yes, Lori did draw Willow.
Yes, that's good. Artistic. That is so good. Look at that. Those fun toys. I love it. It's perfect. Okay, first grade. If you feel that you're in a good place to talk about Willow and talk about her toys, can you give me a thumbs up so I know that you're ready to talk about what you have on your board? It looks like we all did a really nice job. I saw so many different strategies and so many different pictures, and I saw a lot of numbers and even some equations. So I just want to have some people raise their hands, and whoever wants to talk about their strategy or what they used, go ahead and raise your hand and we can look at your whiteboard and we can talk about it. Oh man, not everyone at once. First grade. Oh, thank you, Alyssa.
I drew the 5 toys in the basket, and I'm not a very good drawer.
That's okay.
And then this is the couch, and there's the 2 toys that Willow found under the couch. And then I put all the toys together that she found. And and then I wrote it in a number sentence.
Oh, excellent. I really like the way that you illustrated the problem, and you also put that, and you have all elements of your equation. You've got the plus sign, you've got your two add-ins, you've got that equal sign. That's really good. Did everybody at your table, Alyssa, get the same answer as you?
Yes.
Did anyone at your table do anything different than you did? Mm-hmm. Okay. Is anyone at your table willing to share? What looked different for you? Any of you?
I did something different.
Yeah.
I didn't use those cool slides like she did. I just drew a picture.
That's A-okay. You know what?
Then I just counted and I put the number in the box.
That's excellent. You know what? I think you did your very best, and I really appreciate that, okay? Do your best, because remember, first grade, this is our very first lesson, right? Of the school year, so maybe we're not all gonna have it, but I love the way that you illustrated with pictures, and you got the sum, you got that big number. Who else wants to share? Anyone? Did anyone get any different answer? Can everyone show me with their math hands what their big number was? Good job practicing those math hands, right?
It's odd.
It's tricky.
It's very odd.
I know. Good job. 9 is the worst. I agree.
That's
9 is
the worst for me.
Yes. Good job.
Can we talk about the redraw real quick?
Yeah.
One of the things that you will notice that Engage does a lot is this RDW, this redraw right. And they do it all the time, and it gives the kids a chance before they're blurting out the answer, because you know, as soon as she said Willow found 5 and then found 2 more, somebody's going 7!
Yeah.
7! And they want to yell it out, but it gives all of the kids a chance to think and to put their thoughts down in a way that makes sense to them. And so it's really important you give them that chance to do that, where they write it, they read it, they draw it out, and then they write it. And one of the things I noticed is early on in Module 1, it will start saying, can you put that in words? So then it starts building in a sentence that they're writing to it. And so at the end, actually by January, my kids, when I would say, get out your whiteboards, here's our problem, they would do some sort of illustration, they would do a number sentence, and they would do a written sentence without me prompting them. And they would just put it down as best they could with their abilities. But it was amazing to me, it just became ingrained in them, this is how I'm going to solve it. The other really important piece is that sharing, because you learn how your kids are thinking, what their skills are, but they also learn from each other. And so for me, it was learning to step back and to be quiet and let them talk.
Yes.
That was really, really important. And that's when I saw the most power and the most success with EngageNY was when I allowed myself to step back.
Absolutely. I agree. And it's really challenging to do, kind of like that video when you just want them to understand it right away. But it's so important. And I think it's 7, you know? But something also, as you get going and you're adding and you're subtracting, you're going to see your students using different strategies. So not everyone has to solve it the same way. And what I love about it is that I had a guy, Daryl, and Daryl counted on. I didn't care what it was, he was counting on. And he loved that strategy, and he would tell me, I solved this and I counted on, Miss Ludwig, because it was easy for me to count on. Daryl, that is absolutely correct. You count on till the cows come home, you know? But for Fernando, it was different. He didn't need to count on. He could write his answer, right? He could, create a word problem out of it. And so that was really neat for me to be working on the same exact problem, but having that differentiation or having that choice that the students were able to show what they know in a different way and have that be okay.
And I think too, because you'll have those kids who say, well, I just know it's 7.
Right.
I know it's 7. And I had several of them, and I would just say, I know you know it's 7. How do you know it's 7? Show me how you know it's 7. Prove it to me.
Would you ever have them do their math resource badge, or like cubes and count?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And sometimes it calls for it. It didn't here, so I didn't. It was more getting them used to the process of drawing without those resources. But there's other times where absolutely they're using counters and manipulatives. And if sometimes even on the sprint, some of my kids who were struggling said, can I get my counters? Sure, go get your counters.
Yeah.
If that's what you need and that helps you feel successful, go get them.
So are these already typed up, ready for us to show on the screen?
No. This is,
I know that there are some resources out there that have some presentations,
Right.
but, and one thing that I know, I wish that I didn't know, because I'm started in January, so
This summer, I sat down because I had heard that you said that, and I went on the Embark and saw that they had printed them all up, and then the sheet said, oh, you give each kid a packet and have them cut them off, and I thought that's going to take forever.
Yeah.
So I went through and printed out all of these, cut them apart, put 3 to a page, made a little booklet for my kids.
Great.
So
Okay.
If anybody wants to use it, I would be happy.
excellent.
and what I did is I just,
Yeah, I mean, I truly am. I meant to bring it today and I forgot, but I didn't know if that would work.
Can you give us your email?
Sure.
I just read the problems to my kids. I didn't put them up on
Yeah.
the board. I just read them.
Yeah.
We put it up here for you guys so you could see what we're coming from.
So far, do they need to see it written down, or they?
No, and there were a couple times when I would write it down, but those were few and far between. For the application, I just sat there with my manual and read.
Yeah, or I might have a whiteboard myself, and I might
Right.
kind of model and work through it, and then they could kind of show.
Something in there.
Yeah, it's right here.
Correct.
It's right here.
No, you do not have
no.
to make it. I just made it because what something that we were going to talk about at the end too is incorporating my life or the kids' lives in any way really did help that engagement.
Yeah.
You know, because they care far more about Willow than they do about Dana, because they don't know who Dana is. You know, so that was something I did.
Here.
How do you handle, because I know eventually, you know, it talks about being efficient, but, so I know it's day 1,
Right.
but they have a certain amount of time, and so you're not gonna dissuade them from drawing picture, like, but eventually, like, so how do you handle that transition from what we know first graders do? They can take a really long time with the dry erase
Sure.
marker to draw detailed pictures.
Sure.
And like, how are you going to handle that so you're setting up the routine from day 1 of you've got a certain amount of
For
time?
me, with my low babies, as long as it had anything, as long as we had a 5 or a 2, or we were drawing toys, I was like, woo, you go, baby, like you do it, right? Turning and talking to a partner, there are a lot of aspects in EngageNY that have partner talk. So if I knew I have 1 minute, hey, show your partner your whiteboard, explain what you did, let's move on. Things like that where you can just kind of adjust. And again, like we talked about in the beginning, if you need more time with this, take it.
So you're
Right.
not telling them at this point to draw a dot. Don't
No.
don't draw a squeaky toy. Draw a
No.
dot.
No.
I let them
I'm
draw
saying
whatever they
draw,
want to at the
write,
beginning.
Whatever you need to
But
do.
then when they're still drawing, I might say, okay, you need to put your markers down. We're going to talk about it now. Even if you're not done,
Right.
that's okay.
Put it in the air, show me what you have.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they'll get used to
Eventually
there's
the
a time. It does.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I hope I answered that in a way that.
All right. The meat of the lesson is the concept development. And Joanna Roach, who's the instructional coach for Corinth and Briarwood, actually started this PowerPoint for us because she thought she was going to be presenting the first grade, and then she recruited us to do it. But both Kathleen, and I like this, and for some reason it's a little blurry, but it says, there is chocolate hiding in my milk. And the goal of the lesson is I can find 5 and its partner inside of other numbers. And so that concept of something hiding inside of the number, both Kathleen and I liked.
We loved.
And thought, oh, the kids would really think that was fun, and they could be detectives to find that. So we wanted to highlight this slide and say, this is a kind of a cool idea to use when thinking about presenting
So
this to
this
your
is 10
kids.
and there are numbers hiding in it, and we've got to find those numbers and different partners to 10. So finding a way to make it a little bit different than tell me your partners to 10, you know? And we talked about you could do peanut butter jelly sandwich, you can do, you know.
Yeah, whatever.
You can find ways to be creative with it, or even bring in milk and have them put chocolate and mix it up. And, you know, taking time to make it relevant and engaging, I think, is also important.
Right. Because you're going to be doing numbers inside of numbers most of the year. So
Love number bonds.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're going to be doing them a lot, so it doesn't matter if you spend a little bit more time
Yes.
highlighting
You
this
will hit 'em.
concept. Concept development, and I have a confession to make. I have summer brain. I remembered the candy for you guys, but I forgot the 10 frames. So I'm going to have you draw a 10
We
frame
trust you can draw a
on
10
your
frame.
whiteboard. The instructions for this said to take egg cartons, 1 per student. And
We said,
yeah. And we said no. So and I use socks. I heard somebody's talking about the tissues. I bought bulk socks for my kids, and they put their whiteboard marker in their sock. Their sock is the eraser, and that's
Nice
what
and
and I
easy.
bought black ones so they don't look disgusting all year, and then I take them home and use them. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Count how many slots there are on your 10 frame. When you know, show me with your fingers. Show me with your math fingers.
Oh, look at those math fingers.
Show
the
me
best.
with your fingers how many slots are in the top row. How many are in the bottom row? Using, and you're going to have to share some of those counters and maybe work with a partner at your desk, but put 5 counters in the top row. When you're ready, show me with your fingers how many you have in your top row. You guys are going to be number detectives now. What numbers can you find hiding inside 5? Does anybody see a number hiding inside 5? It's not a trick question. What do you see?
I see 3 red and 2 yellow.
Ah, 3 red and 2 yellow. Does anybody see something different? What do you see?
1 red and 4 yellow.
1 red and 4 yellows. Anybody else? I see 2 hiding inside, and then there are 3 others. Talk to your partner. See if there's any other combinations you find of numbers hiding inside 5. Talk at your table. We are going to make what's called a number bond. Hopefully next year when we start out, all of the kids coming up who've been in Shawnee Mission will know what a number bond is because they'll have had Engage and it will have been taught in kindergarten. But most of our kiddos coming up won't have had that number bond part yet, so we have to introduce it. So say we're going to make a number bond. Who can tell me how many counters there were total? How many counters did you put in total? Yeah, 5. I'm going to put this in the top box. Who can tell me what number they found hiding inside 5? 2. Talk to your partner and find out the other number that hides inside 5 when you have a 2. And humble. So you go through and you keep doing this with the concept development. You ask them what other numbers they have. It calls for a template, and the template is just the number bond. And I just taught my kids how to draw a number bond. Yeah, it was a pain at first because they were always erasing the whole number bond, but they learned not to erase the whole one, and it saved me a set of copies of not having to copy that template. I had my kids or on their desks, one or the other. So we would draw it and we would pull this apart, and that's what this whole lesson is working with it. And then we would move up to 7. The next part of the lesson is moving up to 7. So I would say, okay, make sure you have 7 counters in your 10 frame. And I would also want to make sure after they put them in there, did they put them in going from left to right at the top and then the bottom row? Or how did they put them in? So then I would talk with them about, I want you to do it this way, but I want to see how they do it first before I tell them how I want to do it. And we go through the whole concept and we just keep working with finding hidden numbers in the other numbers. And that's the concept development. You think that's 30 minutes, and it does. With first graders, it takes pretty close to that whole amount of time. I mean, one, they're working with manipulatives and maybe a whiteboard depending on how you're choosing to do it. So there's a lot going on with those little bodies at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carrie.
So I'm newer to first grade. Can you maybe tell me some tricks and tips that you have for just managing the, teaching, and then they're picking up their manipulatives, and just maybe some things that have worked well for you?
Sure. One of the things I always do with manipulatives is I let them play with them before I try any sort of lesson with them. Because they're going to want to play with them, I might as well give them that time, and I'll say, okay, you have 2 minutes or 1 minute. Same with the whiteboard. You have 1 minute. And then the other thing with whiteboards I'll often do is say, if I see you writing on it when you're not supposed to, you will lose your whiteboard, and I will give you a piece of paper. And then usually after I take one whiteboard away, it pretty much solves the problem. Yeah.
I actually inherited this, but each of my students has a math toolbox. It's a little school box. And I have a baggie of 20 of the counters, 20 cubes. I have a template in there and a calculator. Anyway, and they keep that in their desk. And so they have their math toolbox. And it's nice, like if they finish stuff early, you can use your math toolbox now. And I know it's a lot of work to get it set up, but it's worked very well.
And I've created something like that, and at the end we have a slide that shows what I put in for Engage that I know I'm going to use the majority of the year. There will be things I pull in for different modules, but this is what I'm going to keep in all year for them. So it's there. But again, I had a lot of problem with passing out materials last year, and this year I said I'm going to have one little box for each kid so they can just go grab that tub and get out of it what they need. This, do you want to do the problem set? Go ahead.
Totally
Sorry.
up to you. No.
Go for it.
It's okay. So this is
like stepping on your toes.
No, I like it. She's the expert, really and truly. No. So the next piece would be the problem set, and kind of like Sarah was mentioning earlier, you're not always going to get through all of them, and that's okay. Something that I really struggled with as a teacher when I began to teach Engage New York was that I wanted to get all of the concept, and I wanted to get all of the pieces completed to make sure everyone did it. But really it is quality over quantity, and everything is really going to loop itself back. So try as much as you can to let it go a little and know that it's going to come back. So these are what some problem set questions would look like. Because the concept development spent so much time, about 5, they have supported this and given them a start here. Something that I also struggled with was my students would want to just put random numbers in random boxes. So maybe we have to talk about that big box, that big square is your whole, and we have 2 parts hiding, right? And so really even hitting that and practicing, maybe we label, and really practicing that I think is going to be huge. So circle 5 and then make a number bond. And so circling 5, making sure that's there, what's the other smaller number that's going to go here? And then we're going to put our big total number in the top.
And at the beginning of the year, I did these all whole group.
Yes, and I think
and
that's
they took me a lot longer than 10 minutes.
Yes.
But to teach the kids how to do them and what was expected, you're just teaching those routines. So I did these whole group at the beginning of the year. As the year went on, I would give them to the kids and then pull a group of kids back that I knew might struggle with it and work with them. Just on the same problem set, or 1 or 2 of the problems in there that I wanted to help them with, and then let my other kids work on their own. But at the beginning, we did them whole group.
Yeah, and I really like this, put nail polish on the number of fingernails, so it's really enforcing that left to right and what that looks like for them, practicing their math hands, things like that. So I think that is really fun, and it's a fun visual for them, and they get to do rainbow nails, and they get to do striped nails and all that jazz. So any questions about this as we move on?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Would you do this stuff on the iPads or all?
Right at the beginning, all paper. My goal is to do less paper. So Go Formative is a website where you can upload these. They have all the exit tickets loaded into it, and you can upload these. During the year, I use Notability a lot because that was what I was comfortable with, and I would do it that way. You could do it in Seesaw too, because I think you can upload PDFs and have the kids write on PDFs in Seesaw. So there are other options. So my goal is to do less paper. At the beginning of the year, I want to make sure that they're doing it and understanding how to do it and not changing the color on their iPad. And
right.
Okay,
Lori.
so as far as parents, later on, when they're saying, why are they coming home with incomplete work, you just address that?
I just addressed it, yeah. Back to school night. And EngageNY, and there are some resources out there, and I'll look for them, where there are parent letters kind of talking about what's going on and how it works. So just doing some upfront educating of your parents is going to be really important. The other part of the problem set was this, where they flipped the number bond, and this is what I really liked with it too. They didn't always keep the number bond with the total on the top and the two parts. They would flip it to the side. Later on, they'd flip the total over to the left side. So kids got used to the fact that the total could be anywhere. You just had to look, so it really helped them as they went into addition and subtraction problems, figuring out what the total is. So we had to talk about it a lot at the beginning.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes. Circle the bigger number.
So this is the debrief. And these I took straight from the debrief in the manual. So you could say, take a look at the first problem. Share your solution with your partner. Tell them what you came up with. Did you guys come up with the same thing? So again, they're talking about their solutions. What is the same about the butterflies and the strawberries? And the goal is to get the kids there to realize that they both have 5, even though I think the strawberries may have had 8 and the butterflies 7. That the goal was that they both have 5 in them, that there is the same number hidden within. Can you show me math? Show me 6 the math way with your fingers. Can you show me 5 inside of 6? You can do it using your counters, using a number bond, whatever you wanted. And let's do the same thing with 7, 8, 9, and 10. Show me 5 inside of that. How can you show me that? And a lot of this you can do with partners just to see how they're reacting. You know, if they're deer in the headlights, you're like, okay, we didn't get that one. We'll know that we need to hit it again. But it continually loops. You will see these things again and again and again.
Yes, and if you're feeling like you're running out of time, like I so often did, this debrief doesn't have to look formal, whole group setting. We can be lining up. As you walk to line, show me 6 with your math hands, or show your partner, you know, talk to your partner about a number that you can find inside of 10. You know, as much as you want to hit this all together in 7 minutes, I think that's important, but it doesn't always have to be so formal. I think as much as we can just have those conversations, whatever that may look like, I think that's really important.
Is this all whole group or small group?
Whole group.
Whole group.
And you can't do small group?
You can, but
you can, and we're going to talk about what that might look like a little bit.
Right.
But yes.
Yeah.
And I think this will kind of help.
Yeah, you should go on to the next one.
The exit ticket was something that I tried. I was much better at exit tickets than I was at debriefing for whatever reason. And something that I would use exit tickets as was kind of a formative assessment at the end of the day. Where were we? So I would give everyone an exit ticket. I would collect it. I would give them the score of 1, 2, or 3, and I would pop it in a little Google sheet. And then on that Google sheet, my coach had made me a beautiful sheet of all of the lessons and then the standards that they aligned with. So I had kind of a nice little data. After 2 and 3 weeks, I'm really seeing what students are getting what concepts, who needs help. And then what I would do with this is the following day, I would pull my, you know, maybe 5 or 6 who weren't quite there. And we would, during, you know, the first 5-10 minutes of school, I would give them a little practice, or I would reteach, or maybe I would pre-teach a concept that I knew was going to be tricky. So this was really one way that I got to see some really good data with individual students that I use to differentiate a little bit that way.
Do you still have that?
I do, and we can work on getting that out to you guys. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I asked for it too.
Yeah.
I was like, can I have that sheet?
Yes, absolutely. We'll find a way to get that to you guys. So yes, that's just a very typical exit ticket. One or two questions, something very simple, something that is really going to let you know if they got the core concept of the lesson. Yeah, and so differentiation, obviously, with our diverse groups and with our little ones, I think it's so important to target that instruction, right? And that's something I think that all of us are used to doing in math and reading, both. So one way, using those exit tickets was a really great way for me to kind of pull kids here and there. Student groupings, being really intentional about your groupings. I created math spots on my carpet, so it was different than our reading whole group. So I had partners, we kind of were just around the perimeter of our rug, and so I very intentionally placed students where I thought they would be most successful with their partnerships, with their math conversations. So that was one way that I kind of differentiated in knowing that there can be some support there, and obviously I would kind of plant myself where I felt necessary. Something else that I really liked is because we switched mid-year, I introduced Manny the math dog, and he was this tiny, just little puppy dog, teddy bear situation, and he would be our math guy, and his favorite number is 10. And you can't talk unless you have Manny, and so we would pass him around, and we used him as kind of our anchor, and something that really helped to make it fun and engaging for them. And they would be like, is it Manny time? We made him a dog house, and we fed him numbers, and I made a paper and things like that. So just finding different ways to be engaging in your strategies. But I will promise you, once you get into the flow of your lessons and the flow of your modules, your kids will be engaged in what you're doing, and they will have opportunities to talk through and do things at their own level and have choices to make. And the conversations that you are going to hear within your students, I think is going to be really exciting, as I felt like I was hearing so much more academic math talk than I was previously trying to implement with Envision. I think it really lent itself really well. And then Sarah shared this awesome resource too.
Zern is a resource. It's an online, it is aligned exactly with EngageNY, and it is where you can put a little home link on their iPads, and you set up your class, and you can put in what lesson you want kids to work on. So if you have a kiddo who really needs things back in kindergarten, I believe you can go back to kindergarten and set that child up there. But it looks the same for that child. It doesn't look different than what their first grade peer might be doing at a different level. But it goes lesson by lesson. It has a fluency piece. It has videos that go through the kind of lesson. So that's another way that you can differentiate. You can say, okay, this kiddo needs some reteaching on this concept. I'm going to have them go through and do this lesson on Zern. I didn't use it a lot last year because I found out about it towards the end of the year. The few times I used it, my kids really liked it. It's .org. Yes, it is .org. It's like learn, but with a Z and then .org. It could be. The other thing I did was sprints. As the year went on, I had 4 kiddos on IEPs. And so I would pull earlier sprints for them to do because I knew the other sprints were too hard for them. They were way beyond what they were capable of. So I would go back to module 1 and pull sprints and have them work on those sprints while the other kids were doing the sprint that we were on that day. That was another way I differentiated. I did keep my 4 kiddos on IEPs with me in the whole group when I was doing concept development and when I was doing the other fluency pieces. They learned from their peers. They would be drawing pictures. They got to the point where they were drawing number bonds for me. They weren't always right, but they had the concept of I'm going to have a whole and 2 parts. And so they were making those same gains. But you just have to figure out what works for you in your class.
Yeah, so a lot of my differentiation came from reteach or pre-teach, and a lot of that data came from the exit tickets or just, within what I was hearing with some students. Again, that deer in the headlights look, kind of, hey, let's chat about this. Let's break it down a little bit.
When I would break kids into partners, I would often make sure I was placed nearby somebody that I knew was going to struggle with that concept, so I could see what they were talking with about to their partner and what their partner was saying to them, so I could help correct any misconceptions or help guide the discussion a little bit better. Whereas other kids I knew didn't need my help with it. So I just let them go. Prepping materials. This is what I put in my tubs for my kids. I put 40 Unifix cubes. They don't need that many at the beginning of the year, but they will at some point. I put 20 counters. And I got the little Glad Tupperware containers, those little teeny cup ones, and I put the 20 counters in there just to keep them organized.
So smart.
I did the die. I put 2 dice in each kid's cubby. In each kid, again, I gave them a Gladware container so that if they shake it, they stay in the dice and they can read it, and I don't have dice flying all over my room like I did last year. That's my goal. I did a deck of cards with the face cards removed. EngageNY has number cards that you use a lot, but I happen to have decks of cards, so I went ahead and did that. And so instead of using number cards, sometimes I would just pull this, and it saved me copying and cutting.
Do they have just a 1 through 10? Or did they have, you said in a deck of cards where there's 4?
Right, I still, no, I kept all 4 suits in there. They have 40. And sometimes I would use the EngageNY cards, but not always. Whiteboard marker and eraser and a whiteboard. And I threw a ruler in there because I had them and I needed someplace to put my rulers, so.
So you had a little whiteboard?
No, they're this side. So these I put in a box nearby. So when they go grab their tub, they grab their whiteboard.
Oh, so they don't use their tub in their desk.
No, it's a cubby box. We don't have desks. We're at the new school and we don't have desks that they can put stuff in. So they use them in one module, but it's later in the year, so I'm not putting them in until later. These were the things that I found myself using all year. Initially, but all year, throughout the whole year. Yeah.
What would you say about grouping them together? Like 6 students share one tub.
They need their.
I would, if you could.
Yeah.
I would do their own. Yeah.
I would do your own if you could.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2 to a tub, but.
Yeah.
I do it like yellow bed.
Carrie.
Talk to me about your inexpensive tubs.
The counters, I got Gladware, those little cup ones. And when I did math tubs before, I got bigger Gladware containers for each student. This time I happened to have cubby drawers because it was one of the pieces of furniture they ordered for our new building. And so I used that for their individual math tubs.
Yeah, I just have Tupperware, rectangular. Yeah,
Yeah, I
or
was
gallon
gonna say
bags.
bags would work too.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I know that's a lot. I know we kind of talked to you as adults and also as students, so we appreciate you guys taking this on for us. We know it's a busy day. We really want to share these with you, though. These are really important tips and tricks that we feel, and we've hit on most of these, but as you get going, maybe to remember, utilizing a backwards design by reading the debrief first, I think is really important. This module is going to be a little overwhelming, and they're going to tell you word for word what you should be saying and what your students can respond. I would go and really take a look at that debrief to try to hit as much as you can that way. I think would be really helpful.
It also guides the tone of the lesson so that you know this is the skill that they are focusing on, because trying to read through all of the text of their scripting gets hard, and it's like, where are they wanting me to go with the lesson? So I would go to the debrief and find that goal.
Yes. And then I think we hit on most all of these. Setting a timer, hold that binder, okay? It's A-okay to hold that binder with you and get through it. It's rigorous, but it really is relevant. I know you're gonna feel like you're kind of keeping your head above water for a little bit, but you will get into your groove and you're gonna feel that your kids are engaged and that they really are making good gains in math and they're having math conversations.
I think that's what kept me going.
Me too.
With it is seeing how the kids were able to talk about math. And that was something I had not seen before. That they were understanding it and they were able to explain, and not just 1 or 2 kids, but overall the whole class was doing a great job at really explaining those concepts.
So.
Would you guys consider making or administrating a first grade Engage New York Facebook group for Shawnee,
Sure.
where people could, oh my gosh, I figured this out, and more than a Google Classroom
Right.
where you can't really put a picture easily,
Right.
but people could make comments and say, oh, that lesson was a killer.
Yeah.
I'm with ya. Or just like, not to complain, but really.
No, just to,
I don't know
yeah.
if
Would you be?
guys-
Yeah,
Sure.
that would be fine.
It's the first grade wonders one. And
Okay.
it's really like rocked my world, and so.
Oh, good. I need to get on that one.
Yeah, me too. Same, connected.
All
yeah.
right. If you need candy before you go
Thank
to your
you
next
guys
one,
so
we want
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.